What would you do if your husband handed you divorce papers after seeing something he shouldn't have? How can one walk home with a stranger, end up ruining an entire marriage? I never thought a single night would have legal consequences, but the documents in my hand said otherwise. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The bass thumped through the downtown bar as I raised my third Cosmopolitan, feeling more alive than I had in months. My friends cheered around our high-top table, their laughter mixing with the Friday night crowd's energy. "Morwenna, you look amazing tonight," Rachel, my sister, shouted over the music. "When's the last time you wore that dress?" I smoothed the black cocktail dress I'd bought years ago, but never had the courage to wear. At 32, I felt invisible most days, just another suburban mom dropping Sophie off at school, analyzing data at my boring office job, coming home to Elliot's distant politeness. "Too long," I replied, taking another sip. The alcohol warmed my chest, loosening the knot of frustration I'd carried for months. "You deserve this," said Amy, one of my work friends. "When's the last time Elliot took you out somewhere nice?" The question stung because I couldn't remember. Our marriage had become a series of logistics. Who's picking up Sophie? What's for dinner? Did you pay the electric bill? We were roommates raising a child, not lovers who once couldn't keep their hands off each other. "He's been distant lately," I admitted, surprised by my own honesty. "Always grading papers or watching TV. I feel like I'm married to a stranger." "Girl, you need to live a little," said Jessica, already tipsy. "You're young, beautiful, and stuck in suburbia with a man who doesn't appreciate you." Their validation felt like oxygen to my starved ego. For the first time in months, I felt seen, desired, important. The bartender, tall, dark-haired, maybe late 20s, had been sending me drinks all night with that crooked smile that made my stomach flutter. "Ladies, last call in 30 minutes, he announced, his eyes lingering on mine. "Name's Liam, by the way." "Morwenna," I replied, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. My phone buzzed. "Elliot, hope you're having fun. Drive safe. Love you." The text irritated me. So formal, so predictable. No passion, no fire. I shoved the phone back in my purse without responding. "You should totally get his number," whispered Amy. "I'm married," I protested weakly. "So, you're not dead," Rachel said. "A little harmless flirting never hurt anyone." The alcohol made their words sound reasonable. When had Elliot last looked at me the way Liam was looking at me now? When had he last made me feel desirable instead of just there? As the bar closed, my friends called their Ubers. I stood on the sidewalk, slightly unsteady in my heels, when Liam appeared beside me. "Need a ride?" he asked, his cologne mixing with the cool night air. "I should call a car," I said, but my phone showed a 20-minute wait. "I live about 6 blocks from here," he said. "I could walk you home, make sure you get there safely." Every rational part of my brain screamed no, but the attention, the excitement, the feeling of being wanted, it was intoxicating, more intoxicating than the Cosmopolitans. That would be nice," I heard myself say. We walked slowly through the quiet streets, our conversation flowing easily. He asked about my work, my interests, my dreams, things Elliot hadn't asked about in years. Liam listened like my words mattered, like I mattered. "You seem sad," he observed as we turned onto my street. "Just stuck, I guess. Same routine every day. Sometimes I wonder if this is all there is." "Life's too short to be unhappy," he said, stopping under a streetlight. "You deserve better." Those words hit me like a physical touch. When had anyone last told me I deserved better? We reached my front door, the porch light casting long shadows across the walkway. The house was dark, Elliot and Sophie asleep, oblivious to my inner turmoil. "Thank you for walking me home," I said, suddenly aware of how close we were standing. "Thank you for the company," Liam replied, his voice softer now. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. Just as friends. I should have said no, should have thanked him and gone inside to my sleeping family. Instead, I found myself nodding, pulling out my phone to exchange numbers. I'd like that, I whispered. He leaned in for what I told myself was just a friendly hug goodbye, but his arms lingered around my waist, and I didn't pull away. For a moment, I felt alive again, desired again, like the woman I used to be before marriage and motherhood dulled my edges. As we embraced, headlights swept across the street. A car idled at the curb, engine running, but I was too focused on the warmth of Liam's arms to notice. The moment stretched longer than it should have, charged with possibility and danger. "Good night, Morwenna," he said, finally stepping back. "Good night," I breathed, watching him walk away into the darkness. I fumbled with my keys, my heart racing from more than just alcohol. As I slipped inside, I didn't see the familiar sedan parked down the street, didn't notice the figure behind the wheel watching my every move. I slipped off my heels in the entryway, trying to move quietly through our darkened house. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 2:30 a.m., later than I'd planned to be home. The alcohol was wearing off, replaced by a gnawing anxiety about what had just happened. In the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water, my hands shaking slightly. The hug with Liam replayed in my mind, innocent enough, but it had felt like so much more. The way he'd looked at me, the way I'd felt in his arms. It was everything missing from my marriage. "How was your night?" I spun around, water sloshing onto the counter. Elliot stood in the doorway wearing his old college t-shirt and pajama pants, his dark hair messy from sleep. At 35, he was still handsome in that quiet, scholarly way that had first attracted me, but now his presence felt like an interrogation. "You scared me," I said, reaching for paper towels. "I thought you were asleep." "I was. Sophie had a nightmare around midnight. When I went to check on you, you weren't home yet." His voice was calm, measured, the same tone he used with difficult students. "I texted you." "I saw. Sorry, it was too loud in the bar to hear my phone." The lie came easily, though guilt twisted in my stomach. Elliot moved closer, and I caught a whiff of his familiar scent, soap and the faint smell of the coffee he drank too much of. "Did you have fun with your sister and friends?" "Yeah, it was nice to get out." I busied myself cleaning up the spilled water, avoiding his eyes. "You know how it is. We don't get to catch up very often." "How did you get home? Your car's still here." My pulse quickened. "I took an Uber. Didn't want to drive after drinking." "That was smart." He paused, and I could feel him studying me. "I was actually coming back from the grocery store around 2:15. They're open 24 hours now. I could have sworn I saw you on our street with someone, a man." The water glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the kitchen tiles. "Shit. Sorry, I'm still a little tipsy." As I knelt to clean up the glass, my mind raced. He'd seen me with Liam, but how much had he seen? The walk, the conversation, the hug. "Be careful," Elliot said, kneeling beside me with the dustpan. "You'll cut yourself." "I'm fine," I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. "Sorry, I'm just tired." "Morwenna." His voice was gentle but firm. "Who was the man I saw you with?" I stood up, brushing off my knees, and forced myself to meet his eyes. "What man? Elliot, you're being paranoid." "I'm not paranoid. I saw you hugging someone on our front porch." "That's ridiculous. You were probably half asleep and saw shadows or something." I moved past him toward the stairs. "I'm going to bed." "Morwenna, wait." He caught my arm gently. "I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm just concerned. If something's going on..." "Nothing's going on." The words came out louder than I intended. "God, Elliot, can't I have one night out without you interrogating me like I'm one of your students?" His face tightened. "I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking my wife why she was embracing another man in front of our house at 2:30 in the morning." "You're being controlling and paranoid," I said, my voice rising. Maybe if you paid half as much attention to me during our marriage as you do when you think I'm doing something wrong, we wouldn't have these problems. What problems? What are you talking about? But I was already heading upstairs, my heart pounding with a mixture of guilt and indignation. How dare he spy on me? How dare he question me when he'd been emotionally absent for months? In our bedroom, I changed into my pajamas with shaking hands. Elliot appeared in the doorway, his expression hurt and confused. "Morwenna, please. Can we just talk about this calmly?" "There's nothing to talk about," I said, climbing into bed and turning away from him. "You saw what you wanted to see because you don't trust me." "That's not true, I trust you, You just what? Think I'm cheating on you? Think I'm lying to you?" I rolled over to face him, tears of frustration and guilt burning my eyes. "Maybe the problem isn't what I'm doing, Elliot. Maybe the problem is what you're not doing." He stood there for a long moment and I could see the hurt in his eyes. Part of me wanted to take it all back, to tell him the truth, to explain about feeling invisible and unloved, but a larger part, the part that had felt alive in Liam's arms, refused to give ground. "I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight," he said quietly. "We can talk about this tomorrow when we've both had some rest." After he left, I lay in our king-sized bed, feeling smaller than ever. My phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "Thanks for a great evening. Sweet dreams. Beautiful." I should have deleted it, should have blocked his number. Instead, I found myself typing back, "Thank you for walking me home. Sleep well." The next morning, I woke to the sound of Elliot's car pulling out of the driveway earlier than usual. Sophie was still asleep. It was barely 7 a.m., and Elliot didn't usually leave for school until 7:45. I padded downstairs to make coffee and found a note on the kitchen counter. "Taking care of some errands before school. We'll pick up Sophie at 3:30 as planned. We should talk tonight. E." His handwriting was neat and controlled, just like everything else about him. I crumpled the note and threw it away, irritation flaring again. Why couldn't he just let it go? My phone rang. My mother, Joanne Harper, calling from her condo across town. "Morning, sweetheart. How was girls' night?" "It was fine, Mom. Actually, it was really nice to get out." "Good for you. You need more fun in your life. That husband of yours keeps you cooped up like a housewife from the 1950s. I'd complained to my mother about Elliot's emotional distance before, and she'd latched onto the narrative that he was controlling and old-fashioned. It felt validating to have someone on my side. "He was weird about me coming home late," I admitted, asking all these questions like he doesn't trust me. "Oh, honey, that's classic controlling behavior. My friend Margaret went through the same thing with her ex-husband. Started with questioning her whereabouts, ended with him monitoring her bank accounts." "It's not that bad," I protested weakly. "Yet," Mum said ominously. "You need to stand your ground, Morwenna. Don't let him make you feel guilty for having a social life." After we hung up, I felt more justified in my anger. Maybe Elliot was being controlling. Maybe I had every right to feel suffocated and seek friendship elsewhere. I was getting Sophie ready for school when I noticed Elliot's car in the driveway. Peering out the window, I saw him removing something from the dashboard, his dash cam, the one he'd installed after a minor fender bender last year. A chill ran down my spine. Why was he taking the dash cam now? And where had he been so early this morning? "Mummy, why do you look worried?" Sophie asked, her 6-year-old intuition picking up on my tension. "I'm not worried, baby. Just thinking about work stuff." I forced a smile and helped her with her backpack. "Ready for school?" As we walked to my car, Elliot emerged from the house with his school bag and the dash cam in a small box. "Morning, sweetheart," he said to Sophie, kissing the top of her head. His eyes met mine briefly. "Morning, Morwenna." "Morning," I replied stiffly. "Daddy, are you and Mommy fighting?" Sophie asked with the directness that only children possess. "No, sweetheart," Elliot said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups just need to work through things. Everything's going to be fine." But as I watched him drive away, the dashcam box on his passenger seat, I had the sinking feeling that everything was definitely not going to be fine. The whispers started at my office Monday morning. I noticed them immediately, the way conversation stopped when I walked by, the sideways glances, the barely suppressed smirks. By lunch, I knew something was wrong. "Morwenna, can I talk to you?" Amy from accounting appeared at my cubicle, her expression serious. We walked to the break room, which was thankfully empty. Amy pulled out her phone and showed me a group chat I wasn't part of, one that included several of our co-workers. "Someone posted this Saturday morning," she said quietly. My blood turned to ice. It was a photo of me and Liam on my front porch Friday night, clearly showing us in an intimate embrace. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. The caption, posted by Jessica from our girls' night group, read, "Looks like someone had a very good night. Shanna married life, who?" "Oh my God," I whispered, grabbing Amy's phone. "Who else has seen this?" "Morwenna." Amy's voice was gentle but firm. "It's been shared in 3 different group chats that I know of. People are talking." The room spun slightly. "It's not what it looks like. He just walked me home because I couldn't get an Uber. It was completely innocent." Amy's expression suggested she didn't entirely believe me. "Look, I'm not judging, but you might want to get ahead of this before it gets back to Elliot." Too late for that, I thought miserably. Elliot had already seen us, had already questioned me about it. Now my co-workers were gossiping about my marriage, my fidelity, my character. I spent the rest of the day fielding awkward questions and avoiding eye contact with colleagues. By 5 p.m., I was emotionally exhausted and humiliated. At home, Sophie ran to greet me as usual, but Elliot barely looked up from the papers he was grading at the kitchen table. "How was your day?" he asked without real interest. "Fine," I lied, pouring myself a large glass of wine. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "We need to talk. Call me." I stepped onto the back patio and called my sister. "Morwenna, what the hell is going on?" Rachel's voice was sharp with concern. "Jessica posted some photo of you with some guy, and now Mum's calling me asking if you're having an affair." "I'm not having an affair," I said, louder than intended. "Jesus, why does everyone assume the worst?" "Because you're hugging a strange man on your front porch at 3 a.m. while your husband and daughter are sleeping inside," Rachel shot back. "What am I supposed to think?" "You're supposed to trust me. You're supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side, which is why I'm asking you to explain what's happening before this gets worse." I told her about Liam walking me home, about feeling lonely and unappreciated in my marriage, about Elliot's controlling behavior and constant suspicion. "Morwenna," Rachel said slowly, "Elliot isn't controlling. He's one of the most laid-back guys I know. If he's suspicious, maybe it's because you're giving him reason to be." Her words stung. "So you're taking his side now?" "I'm not taking sides. I'm worried about you. This doesn't sound like you." But maybe this was me, the real me that had been suffocated by years of domestic routine and emotional neglect. Maybe I was finally standing up for myself. After we hung up, I poured another glass of wine and opened Facebook. If people were going to talk, I might as well give them something to talk about. I crafted a post carefully, feeling grateful for friends who actually listen and care about my happiness. It's amazing how some people can make you feel more valued in one evening than others do in years. Here's to surrounding yourself with people who see your worth. Know your value. True connection. No, blessed. It was vague enough to maintain plausible deniability, but pointed enough that anyone who knew about the photo would understand the subtext. Within minutes, I had likes and supportive comments from friends who didn't know the full story. "You deserve happiness, girl." Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. Living your best life. The validation felt like a drug. For the first time in days, I felt supported instead of judged. Elliot appeared in the doorway. "Sophie's asking for you. Bedtime." I followed him upstairs, where our daughter was waiting in her pajamas with her favorite book. "Will you read to me, Mommy?" she asked, climbing into bed. As I read about brave princesses and happy endings, I caught Elliot watching us from the doorway. His expression was unreadable, but there was something different in his eyes, a sadness that made my chest tighten with guilt. After Sophie fell asleep, I found Elliot in his home office, laptop open, surrounded by papers. "Working late again?" I asked. "Just catching up on some things." He didn't look at me. "Morwenna, I think we should talk to someone. A counselor, maybe." "A counselor? Why?" "Because we're clearly having communication issues. Because you seem unhappy, and I don't know how to fix it." His words were reasonable, loving even, but they felt like an attack on my newfound sense of independence. "Maybe the problem isn't communication," I said. "Maybe the problem is that we've grown apart, and you're just now noticing." "I've been noticing for months," he said quietly. "I've been trying to figure out how to reconnect with you, but every time I try, you push me away." "When have you tried?" I challenged. "When have you asked about my dreams, my feelings, what I need?" "I'm asking now." But it felt too little, too late. "I'm going to bed." As I left his office, I heard him sigh heavily. Part of me wanted to go back, to tell him about feeling invisible and unimportant, to work together to fix what was broken between us. But another part, the part that had felt alive in Liam's attention, whispered that I deserved better than having to beg for my husband's interest. My phone buzzed with a text from Liam. "Hope you had a good day. Still thinking about our conversation Friday night. You're an amazing woman, Morwenna." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Thank you. That means more than you know." As I fell asleep alone in our king-sized bed, Elliot still working in his office, I told myself I was finally taking control of my life. I was finally standing up for what I deserved. I had no idea that downstairs, Elliot was making phone calls of his own. The email arrived Tuesday morning while I was getting Sophie ready for school. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Legal consultation, urgent." "Morwenna," the message read, "I've scheduled a meeting with attorney David Morrison for Thursday at 2 p.m. I think it would be beneficial for both of us to attend. Please let me know if this time works for you. Elliot." My hand shook as I read it twice. "A lawyer? Why would Elliot need a lawyer unless—" "Mummy, you're pulling my hair too tight," Sophie complained as I braided her hair with more force than necessary. "Sorry, baby." I loosened my grip, my mind racing. This was an overreaction. Elliot was trying to scare me, to make me feel guilty for having a friend. Well, I wouldn't be intimidated. I called in sick to work and spent the day alternating between anger and anxiety. When Elliot came home, I confronted him immediately. "A lawyer, Elliot? Really? You're being completely ridiculous." "I don't think I am," he said calmly, setting down his school bag. "We clearly have some serious issues to work through, and I want to make sure we handle them properly." "Handle what properly? I walked home with someone. That's not a crime." "Morwenna, please. Let's just go to the meeting. Let's talk through this like adults." Thursday afternoon, I sat in David Morrison's law office feeling like I was in a nightmare. The office was all dark wood and leather, intimidating and formal. Morrison was a man in his 50s, with kind eyes but a serious demeanor. "Thank you both for coming," he said, gesturing for us to sit in chairs across from his desk. "Elliot has briefed me on some concerns he has about your marriage. I want to be clear that I'm not representing either of you individually at this point. I'm simply here to provide information and guidance." "This is unnecessary," I said. "We don't need a lawyer to work through marriage problems." "Perhaps not," Morrison agreed. "But sometimes it helps to understand the potential consequences of our actions before we make decisions we can't take back." Elliot reached into a briefcase I hadn't seen him carry in years and pulled out a manila folder. "I want to show you something, Morwenna." He handed Morrison a tablet, and the lawyer's expression grew serious as he reviewed whatever was on the screen. "This is dash cam footage from Friday night," Elliot said quietly, "from when I went to the 24-hour grocery store." Morrison turned the tablet toward me, and I watched in horror as grainy but clear footage showed me walking down our street with Liam, laughing and touching his arm. The timestamp showed 2:23 a.m. The video continued, showing us stopping at my front door, talking for several minutes, then embracing, a long, intimate hug that looked damning even to me. "This isn't what it looks like," I said weakly. "There's more," Elliot continued, his voice steady but pained. He showed Morrison his phone. Text messages between Morwenna and this man, starting Saturday morning. My heart stopped. How did he have my text messages? "Your phone backs up to our shared iCloud account," Elliot explained, reading my expression. "I wasn't spying on you, Morwenna. I was trying to understand what was happening to our marriage." Morrison reviewed the messages. Innocent enough individually, but together they painted a picture of an emotional affair in its early stages. Liam calling me beautiful, me responding positively, plans being made to meet for coffee. "There's also this," Elliot said, showing Morrison my Facebook post from Monday night. Posted the same day, the photo of her with this man was circulating at her workplace. I felt exposed, humiliated, trapped. "You're making this sound worse than it is. I haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't you?" Morrison asked gently. "Mrs. Foyle, I need to ask you directly. Have you been intimate with this man?" "No, we hugged goodbye, that's all." "But you've been communicating with him since that night?" "Yes, but just as friends." "And you've made plans to see him again?" I hesitated. "We talked about getting coffee." Morrison exchanged a look with Elliot. "Mrs. Foyle, in the state of Michigan, emotional affairs can be considered grounds for divorce, especially when there's evidence of intent to pursue a physical relationship." "Intent? I never intended anything." "Your text messages suggest otherwise," Morrison said, reading from Elliot's phone. Quote, "I can't stop thinking about Friday night. You made me feel alive again." That was sent yesterday morning. I had sent that message in a moment of loneliness and frustration, but hearing it read aloud in this sterile office made it sound sordid and calculated. "Elliot, please," I turned to my husband, tears starting to flow. "You're blowing this completely out of proportion. I made a mistake, but it's not what you think." "What am I supposed to think, Morwenna?" For the first time, emotion cracked through his calm facade. "You lied to me about how you got home. You've been texting another man. You posted on social media about finding true connection with someone else. What am I supposed to think?" "I think," Morrison interjected diplomatically, "that you both need to decide what you want the outcome of this situation to be. Mr. Foyle, you've asked me to prepare some documents. Are you sure you want me to present them?" Elliot was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red but determined. "Yes." Morrison opened his desk drawer and pulled out a legal document. "Mrs. Foyle, this is a formal separation agreement. It outlines the terms under which you and your husband would live apart while deciding whether to proceed with divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Separation? Elliot, no. We can work this out." "I've been trying to work it out for months," he said. "I've been trying to understand why you've been pulling away, why you seem so unhappy. I thought maybe I was the problem, that I wasn't giving you what you needed, but instead of talking to me, you turned to another man. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" His voice rose for the first time. "Explain to me what it was like, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife is having an emotional affair and lying about it." Morrison cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a break." "No," Elliot said firmly. "I want her to see the custody arrangement too." My blood went cold. "Custody?" Morrison handed me another document. "This outlines a proposed custody schedule for your daughter. Given the circumstances, Mr. Foyle is requesting primary custody with supervised visitation for you until the situation stabilizes." "Supervised visitation?" I shot to my feet. "You're trying to take Sophie away from me." "I'm trying to protect her," Elliot said quietly. "She's already asking why we're fighting." "She's sensitive, Morwenna. She doesn't need to be in the middle of this." I'm her mother. And I'm her father. And right now, I'm the parent who isn't lying and sneaking around. The room fell silent except for the sound of my ragged breathing. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Mrs. Foyle, Morrison said gently, you don't have to sign anything today, but I strongly recommend you get your own attorney if you choose to contest any of these terms. Contest them? Elliot, this is insane. We can go to counseling. We can work this out. Can we? Elliot stood up, gathering his papers. Because 3 days ago, I asked you to tell me the truth about what happened, and you called me paranoid and controlling. Even now, even with all this evidence, you're still not taking responsibility for your choices. What do you want me to say? I want you to say that you're sorry. I want you to say that you understand why I'm hurt and why I can't trust you right now. I want you to say that you'll cut contact with this man and commit to working on our marriage. The words hung in the air between us. It would have been so easy to say them, to apologize and promise to do better. But something in me, pride, stubbornness, or maybe just the intoxicating memory of feeling desired, refused to back down. I'm sorry you feel hurt, I said carefully, but I won't apologize for having a friend. Elliot's face crumpled slightly, and I saw the last bit of hope leave his eyes. Then I guess we're done here, he said, turning to Morrison. Please file the papers. As we left the law office separately, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, crying and trying to process what had just happened. My marriage was over. My husband was taking my daughter. All because of one innocent walk home with a man who had made me feel appreciated. My phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Hey, beautiful, still on for coffee tomorrow? I stared at the message, realizing that this man, this virtual stranger, had somehow become the catalyst for the destruction of my entire life. For the first time, I began to wonder if I had made a terrible mistake. The court summons arrived on a rainy Monday morning, delivered by a sheriff's deputy who looked apologetic as he handed me the official documents. Petition for divorce and child custody, the header read in stark black letters. I stood in my doorway in my bathrobe, water dripping from the eaves onto the papers, making the ink blur slightly. Elliot was actually doing it. He was really divorcing me. My phone had been buzzing all weekend with messages from friends, family, and co-workers who had heard about the separation. The story had spread through our social circles like wildfire, with details getting more salacious with each retelling. Morwenna, honey, I heard about Elliot moving out, my mother said when she called that afternoon. What a controlling, vindictive man, taking Sophie away from you over nothing. It's not nothing, Mom, I said tiredly. I mean, it should be nothing, but he's making it into this huge thing. Well, I've already called my attorney friend, Patricia Chen. She specializes in family law, and she says you have a strong case for joint custody at minimum. But even my mother's support felt hollow. The truth was, I was losing friends by the day. The group chat from girls' night had gone silent after Jessica posted that photo. Amy from work had stopped eating lunch with me. Even my neighbor Linda, who used to wave cheerfully every morning, now just nodded politely before hurrying inside. The worst part was Sophie. She was staying with Elliot at his mother Patricia's house temporarily, and our supervised visits twice a week were awkward and heartbreaking. Why can't I come home, Mummy? She asked during our Wednesday visit at a neutral location, a family centre with a court-appointed supervisor watching our every interaction. It's complicated, baby. Daddy and I are working through some grown-up problems. Is it because you have a boyfriend now? My heart stopped. Who told you that? Grandma Patricia said you have a special friend, and that's why Daddy is sad. I wanted to scream. Patricia Foyle had never liked me, had always thought her precious son could do better than a career woman like me. Now she was poisoning my daughter against me. I don't have a boyfriend, Sophie. I just have friends, like you have friends at school. But Sophie was only 6, and the distinction was lost on her. She spent most of our visits asking when things would go back to normal. when we could be a family again? The answer came the following week when my attorney, David Kim, reviewed Elliot's evidence. "Morwenna, I have to be honest with you," he said across his desk, surrounded by law books and case files. "Your husband has built a very strong case. The dash cam footage, the text messages, the social media posts, it all paints a picture of infidelity and poor judgment. But I didn't cheat. I never slept with Liam. Emotional affairs count in Michigan, especially when there's evidence of intent to pursue a physical relationship. And your continued contact with this man after your husband confronted you shows a pattern of deception." I slumped in my chair. "What does that mean for custody?" "It means we're fighting an uphill battle. Courts prioritize the best interests of the child. And right now, Elliot looks like the stable, trustworthy parent. I'm trustworthy. I'm her mother." "You're a mother who was photographed in an intimate embrace with another man while your husband and daughter slept. You're a mother who lied about it when confronted. You're a mother who continued the relationship despite your husband's concerns." Each word was like a slap. "So what are my options?" "We can fight for joint custody, but it's going to be expensive and ugly. Your best bet is to show the court that you've changed, cut all contact with this Liam person, complete a parenting class, maybe some counseling to show you're taking this seriously." I left the attorney's office feeling defeated and alone. In the parking lot, I called Rachel. "I need to ask you something," I said when she answered. "Will you testify as a character witness for me in the custody hearing?" There was a long pause. "Morwenna, please, Rachel, you're my sister. I need someone to speak up for me. I can't lie under oath." "I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to tell them I'm a good mother." "You are a good mother, but you're also someone who made some really poor choices recently. So you won't help me?" "I'll tell the truth if called to testify. But Morwenna, the truth is that you had an emotional affair, you lied about it, and you're still defending your actions instead of taking responsibility for them. Even my own sister was abandoning me. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month. In the meantime, I was living alone in our family home, which felt cavernous and empty without Sophie's laughter echoing through the halls. My friends from work had mostly stopped including me in their plans. The group chat that used to buzz with weekend plans and office gossip had gone quiet whenever I posted anything. I found out through Facebook that they'd had a girls' night the previous weekend, without me. "It's just awkward," Amy explained when I confronted her. "People don't know what to say. Plus, some of the married women are uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable with what?" "With being around someone who—" She trailed off. "Who what? Say it, Amy." "Someone who cheated on their husband. Their husbands don't want them hanging around you." The isolation was crushing. I'd gone from being a respected colleague, loving wife, and devoted mother to being a social pariah in the span of a few weeks. The only person who still reached out was Liam, and even those conversations had become stilted and awkward. "I feel terrible about all this," he said when we finally met for coffee, the coffee date that had started this whole mess. "I never meant to cause problems in your marriage." "It's not your fault," I said, though part of me blamed him for being so charming, so attentive, so everything Elliot wasn't. "Maybe we should stop talking for a while," he suggested, "until things settle down." And just like that, the man who had made me feel alive and desired was walking away too, leaving me more alone than ever. That night, I sat in my empty house with a bottle of wine and my laptop, scrolling through social media. Elliot had changed his relationship status to separated. His mother had posted a passive-aggressive meme about supporting single fathers. My own friends were posting pictures of their happy families, their stable marriages, their perfect lives. I started typing a Facebook post. "Going through a difficult time right now. Finding out who your real friends are. Some people are quick to judge without knowing the whole story. Thank you to those who have shown me grace and support during this challenging period." But as my finger hovered over the post button, I realized how pathetic it sounded. How desperate and self-pitying. Instead, I closed the laptop and went to bed in the house that no longer felt like home, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. Tomorrow, I would have to face another day of whispers and judgment, another day of missing my daughter, another day of living with the consequences of choices that had seemed so reasonable just a few weeks ago. The family courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, with fluorescent lighting that made everyone look pale and tired. I sat at a table next to my attorney, David Kim, watching as Elliot and his lawyer organized their evidence with methodical precision. Judge Margaret Sullivan was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. She'd been on the bench for 20 years, according to Kim, and had a reputation for cutting through emotional manipulation to focus on facts. "This is a custody hearing for Sophie Marie Foyle, age 6, Judge Sullivan began. Mr. Foyle is requesting primary custody with supervised visitation for Mrs. Foyle. Mrs. Foyle is contesting and seeking joint custody. Mr. Morrison, please present your client's case." Elliot's attorney stood and methodically laid out the evidence I'd hoped never to see again. The dash cam footage played on a large monitor, showing me walking home with Liam, laughing and touching his arm flirtatiously. The timestamp glowed accusingly. 2:23 a.m. "Your Honor, this footage shows Mrs. Foyle returning home with an unknown man while her husband and 6-year-old daughter were asleep. When confronted about this by Mr. Foyle, she lied, claiming she had taken an Uber home alone. The text messages came next, displayed on screen for everyone to see. Liam: "Thanks for a great evening. Sweet dreams, beautiful." Me: "Thank you for walking me home. Sleep well." Liam: "I can't stop thinking about our conversation. You're an amazing woman." Me: "That means more than you know. I can't stop thinking about Friday night either." Reading them in the sterile courtroom, they looked damning. The flirtation that had felt innocent and ego-boosting now seemed calculated and inappropriate. Mrs. Foyle continued this relationship for weeks after her husband expressed concerns, Morrison continued. She made plans to meet this man for coffee, posted on social media about finding true connection elsewhere, and showed no remorse when confronted with evidence of her deception. The gavel sounded like a coffin closing. Primary custody to Elliot, supervised visits for me. House stays with him, 30 days to disappear. I sat frozen while the courtroom emptied, the way you stay seated after a funeral when everyone else has already gone to the reception. Elliot paused beside my table. "I'm sorry it came to this," he said, so quietly only I could hear. He didn't wait for an answer. He never does anymore. Outside, I watched him buckle Sophie into the car seat that used to be my job. She was wearing the blue dress I bought her, the one with tiny white daisies. Her hair was in the 2 French braids I taught myself from YouTube when she was 4. She saw me on the steps. For 1 second, she lifted her little hand, half wave, half question. Elliot gently turned her forward, closed the door, and drove away. I stood there until the car turned the corner and the street was empty. 6 months ago, I let a bartender walk me home because my husband forgot to ask how my day was. Today, a judge decided that one night, and all the nights I spent chasing that feeling again, cost me the right to tuck my daughter in. I have Wednesday evenings and every other Saturday in a beige room with a social worker who times how many minutes I get to hold my own child. The rest of the week, Sophie lives in the house I decorated, sleeps in the bed I picked out, calls another woman's cooking dinner. And Liam, he never even showed up to court, never answered the one text I sent after the separation. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" He left me on read. I still have the blue dress with the daisies hanging in my new apartment. It doesn't fit me anymore. Some nights I take it out and press it to my face, trying to smell her Johnson's shampoo in the fabric. All I smell is the courthouse air, old wood, ink, and the sharp metallic taste of a life I threw away for one walk home in the dark.